Good morning. Today we will discuss about the components of casework. This is the continuation of our last Sunday discussion about the approaches, techniques, and the strategies of being a social worker. Now, after the oral recitation that we had today, let us proceed with another topic, the components of casework. We have six components of casework. First is the person, second is the problem, third is the place, fourth is the process, fifth is the worker client relationship, and the last is the problem solving work. So first, let's discuss about the person. The person are defined as a person who comes as a client to a social agency is always under stress. Correct. They are unconscious of their problem. That's why we as a social worker, we are the one who will help to them as realizing about their problem. Another, the person. Person seen as a product in process of becoming. The problem solving model views personality as an open system continuously responsive to input and feedback from outside itself. Ayun. So we have three types of client that we had. First is the reach out, the walk-in second, and the last is the referral. So as we go on with our discussion, we will discuss that isa-isa. So let's proceed. To understand human behavior and individual differences, Grace Matthew has given the following proposition. An individual's behavior is conditioned by his or her environment and his or her experiences. Behavior refer to reacting, feeling, thinking, and etc. The conditions and the influences surrounding the person constitutes the environment. So that's the person, the holistic of being a person as stated in our definition of social work. The person is really defined as our client. They are unconscious, may problema at lumalapit sa atin in terms of their needs and their problems. For human growth and development, it is essential that certain basic needs should be met according to Maslow hierarchy of needs. So we have the hierarchy of needs, which is the physiological, security, and so on and so forth. So, as a human growth, the development is essential. It is important that the human growth and development. Another, emotional needs are really, and they cannot be met or removed through intellectual reasoning. So that's it. When we say we have the emotional needs, all of us we have emotional needs, even our client. So we need also to realize and understand what their feeling is. Another, behavior is purposeful and is in response to the individual's physical and emotional needs. Yes, correct. Behavior is really matter about that dealing with the client. So that's it. That's the discussion of the person, one of the component of a social work, component of the casework process. Proceed. Problem is a casework addresses itself to the solution of problems that block or minimize the effectiveness of the individual in various roles. So that's it. The problem that need to address, the problem of the client that need to address. Because as a matter of fact, pag pumasok po sila sa atin, they are unconscious of what their problem. So that's why we are the one who guide them, who facilitated them in order to inculcate in their mind what must be the problem, the exact problem that they have. As what I stated in our presentation last Sunday, presenting problem is different from the presented problem. Presenting problem is the client who will go or who will said about their problem. But the presented problem is being clarified, or what we call that we need to check if that kind of problem is really the problem of the client. So we have our different techniques and strategies of being a social worker. The multifaceted and dynamic nature of the client's problem makes necessary the selection by caseworker and the client some part of it as the unit for work. So it's a dynamic nature. When we did our case studies, so It's really matter that you as a social worker, you need to facilitate or you need to clarify that certain problem that they undergo. Another problem, the choice of problem depends on whether the problem is the client's problem. Leadership given by the caseworker depends upon her professional knowledge and judgment, agency's function, example, the hospital, and etc. That's why in our problem, we need to assess. We have three type of assessment: the pre-assessment, the assessment, and the post-assessment. The very first time that the client will go to your office or to you as a social worker, you need to distinguish first what must be their problem. So in order to have that one, you have your different skills, you have different your strategies, and even your professional knowledge. From the word professional knowledge, so you need to have a judgment about the case study professionally, not intentionally, not personally, but professionally. Say for example, in hospital, so say for example, pupunta yung kliyente doon sa social worker to ask assistance about the referral or in decreasing about or decreasing about the bill. So you as a social worker, you need first to facilitate an interview. An interview which is very important to investigate. So a holistic of a client, say for example, a lot of client really demand about different services. So you need to facilitate in an appropriate way. You need to distinguish or you need to judge professionally if in case this kind of client is really in need. Another, partialization becomes necessary for purposes of action, centering of attention on relevant and selected part of what is presented to view. Ito na yung sinasabi ko last Sunday na you need to have this kind of skills because this is really important and this is really anong sa Tagalog yan, really gamit na gamit. Kasi say for example, when you did about this kind of strategies or purposes about the partialization, say for example, sabi ko nga last Sunday na a client will go to your office and ask some assistance because of the different reason. First, the mother of the client is sick. Next, the father is walang trabaho. Third, the sisters or brother hindi nakapag-aral. Fourth, wala silang mga pinagkakakitaan. So as partialization exists, you need first to solve that certain problem that can be solved other problems. Say for example, for problem, you need first to think and to have a knowledge about what must be the first in order to solve another problem. So with that certain example, the partialization techniques will really exist. So first you need to land a job, you need to land a job to the father. Para kahit papaano, that certain three problems will solve. So that is partialization. Another, problems can be categorized as follows, according to Grace Matthew. Problems related to illness and disabilities. So, karamihan yan sa ating mga kliyente, illness and disabilities. The PWD, and yung may mga dialysis na mostly in medical, yun po ang kinikater na karamihan. At yun po ang nag-exist karamihan sa mga problems. Another, problems due to lack of material resources. Correct. Say for example, they have their different in barangay. So, they didn't have a multi-purpose building in order to have a meeting. So, that's one of the problem of the society as well as the client. Next will be school-related problems. Nowadays, say for example, about this new normal. So, one of our problem is about school-related problems such as internet. That's why all of teachers, especially in MMG, have a different, what we call that, teaching strategy on how we cope up about this kind of new normal because of the pandemic. So we use different apps like Google Classroom, Google Meet, here the YouTube, and what we call the slide share in order you to mabalikan mo kung ano yung mga pinagsasabi ng mga teacher mo. Yun po. Another school related problem also, mga tuitions. That's why we as a social worker, we need to have a different links, different friends from the different fields, from the different professionals, in order us to refer that kind of client who's in the different services na kinikater din na mga friends natin or mga different professionals. Another, problems related to institutionalization. Correct, just like the different agencies. So that is one of the problem. Just like the different accreditation of the different orphanages, one of the problem din yan. Next will be behavior problems. Correct. As we all know that the client really have a different behavior, even us as a social worker, we have different um, problems in our lives and behavior also. So that's why it's one of the category of the problem in component of the casework or component of the social work. Another problem of marital discord, paghihiwalay, pagiging broken. So, papag-usapan din yan. So, social worker din po ang dapat nandyan or even in psychologist or any para-professional experts na pwede pong tutulong sa kanila. Another, problem situation needing a follow-up services, correct? So as a matter of fact, if you give a services already and you terminate the certain client, you need also to have a follow-up. How's the development of that certain client? How's the different services that you render? Is there any sustainability goal that they really inculcate in their mind? How about the different orientation that they give to that certain client? So did they accept or did they do about what you say, or if in case kung nandun man, ano pa ang mga nagawa nila in order to develop that certain different services that you or the agency rendered. Another, needs related to rehabilitation of people. Correct. This inculcate also with a different with different techniques such as ventilation or the diversion program of the DSWD. We have different program, the diversion program, in order to divert that certain attitude, so the people will go to rehabilitation such as drug dependence. So pumupunta dyan para kahit papano they will realize about what they did, which is wrong. Another, the place also is the social agency. Is an organization fashioned to express the will of society or of some groups in that society as to social welfare. From the word social agency, we have three types of agency, which is the public agency, the private agency, and semi-governmental agency. So, with that one, that certain institution or a set of different agency is also known as social welfare. Social welfare will exist with the different services and a program of, of a different agencies that will be actualizing by the social worker. So we are you as a future social worker. You're the one who will employed in that place in order to give some services and different activities that you will render to the client. Another, each social agency develops a program by which to meet the particular areas of needs with which it sets out to deal. It depends on the factors like money, knowledge, and competence of the agency staff, the interest, resources available, and support of the community. So holistic. As a client being holistic, you need to consider also what kind of services that you will render to your client as a social worker, what kind of community that they live, what kind of the family. So you need to investigate. As we all know, we have three types of source of information to the client in order to solve that certain problem by doing a case study. First source of information is the client itself. Second will be the significant others. And the third will be the existing data. That certain existing data will be the community itself or even the different profile in the barangay pwede natin magamit if in case that certain client will have or may mga different problems na alam din ng mga na nasa community. Yan. So let's proceed. The social agency has structure by which it organizes and delegates its responsibilities and tasks and governing policies and procedure hierarchy roles and responsibilities clear, designated and delegated collaboration procedures and the policy understand the usefulness by which it stabilizes and systematizes its operation among workers. So that's it. The social agency. One of your major subject will be the different agency, institutional instructions or what we call that different positions na pwede nyo makakausap sooner or later. But we have to distinguish also the different agency. Ano yung mga difference doon, ano ang pagkakaparehas, ano ang mga proseso na meron tayo. Ayan. So let's proceed with the agency functions. First is the child welfare. So yung mga nag-cater ng child, such as different ampunan, ayan, different asylums, orphanages, ayan. Family welfare, like when I was in college, so I undergo my OJT in Community and Family Services International way back in MSU Maguindanao, and I am connected in the Cotabato in order to give some services to the family. Ayan. Education also is really matter about the agency. So they cater also different educations such as in CFSI also. We have the PEP or Basic Education Program under BRAC. Ayan. Next will be the specialization based in etc. About the specialization, they cater different, say for example, CICS such as Mercy Foundation. So you as a social worker or you as a social work student, you know also to distinguish what is the different agencies here in Jansan in order you to madali na lang po na matrace up or malink ninyo kung sino yung pwede nyo papasukan or hihingian ng tulong. Agencies also differ based on, number one, source of support, the funder itself. Say for example, ganun, karamihan. Professional authorities such as different kind of, just like in government, the top and bottom approach na ginagamit. In agency naman, the linear approach. So lahat yan, you will have the different major subject about than one. Clientele they serve, so there is different specific clientele, yung mga kliyente na kinikita ng different agency din. Next will be services they offered, so iba-iba din. The goal of the agency is others in CFSI, when I have OGT, we have also the covenant. Maliban sa goals and agency, we have different covenant that we had. Other also have a vision, mission, and goal. Mostly, it's a common. Every staff member in an agency speaks and acts for some part of agency's function. And the caseworker represent the agency in its individualized problem-solving help. First, it's the caseworker, not an independent professional practitioner. Yes, correct. As what I told you or discussed last Sunday, that you as a social worker, you are not alone. You cannot depend yourself, so you need to ask help from the different fields. Say for example, I am an academic social worker and you will have your OJT as my student, so I need to refer you or I need to link other medical settings or in the community itself na yung may mga social worker. That's why maging mabait ka, maging pasensyoso ka, at isa sa higit sa lahat, maging palakaibigan ka from the other fields or even in social work or the social worker. Para kahit pa paano madali at magtutulungan lang kayo. Say for instance, it can hinder also the development of the client if in case na may kaaway ka na social worker tapos ayaw mo doon i-refer, which is yun yung kinikater talaga ng isang agency. So ikaw dapat, you will have that certain what we call that batasan or pag-uugali na dapat may mga different techniques or different nasasabihin ka na dapat pagkakatiwalaan at basta maging kaibigan mo dapat ang yung co-social worker. Another, caseworker speaks and acts for the agency. So you as a social worker, if you have an agency or you are employed with that certain agency, you are the representative of that certain agency that really serve or that for the humanity, for the justice, or even whatsoever the role of being a social worker. You are the one who will fight to the client, as well as different techniques that you will need. Just like me in my dep ed. So I have also different techniques that I did that really connected to social worker. Even if I am a plain teacher in dep ed, but a social worker, because I am registered as a social worker as well as the LPT also. So I need also to calculate the mind of that certain students, that certain teachers about different techniques and strategies that can be helped to the different client that we rendered services. Next will be psychologically identified with its purpose and policies, and a caseworker, while representing his agency, is first and foremost a representative of his profession. Yun sabi ko, even though I am in the DepEd, so I am a social worker itself. Even I am in academe. That's why ayoko na hindi ako nakaka-practice also with the social work profession. That's why I have my part-time teaching in MMG. He or she must know and be committed with feelings to the philosophy that guide the practice of the social work profession. Correct. So you are not only in your mind but also in your deed or in your action. You need to commit that you are a social worker. You have your guiding philosophy or attributes that you had. Another, the process. In order to understand what casework must include in it problem solving processes, it is necessary to understand first the kind of challenges and blockings which occur in people's normal problem solving effort. If necessary, tangible means and resources are not available to the person. So, we need also to distinguish about the skills, the talents of that certain client out of ignorance or misapprehension about the facts of the problem or the facts of existing way of meeting it. If the person is depleted or drained of emotion or physical energy, so dapat that certain process meron din tayo. Ito pa, some problems arose high feelings in a person, emotion so strong that they overpower his reason and defy his conscious controls. Another, problems may lie within the person. He may have become subject to or victim of emotions that chronically over a long time have governed his thinking and action. So we need to have a certain process or the case study itself. Have not developed systematic habits or orderly method of things and planning. Yun. These are the different purposes of the casework. First is the purpose of the casework process is to engage the person himself both in working on the coping with the one or several problems that confront him, and to do so in such a way that he emerges as a functional being as he goes on living. So the purpose of the casework or the case study itself is to give the functional or the what we call the social functioning of individual. Problem solving model is a process consisting of the following operation. Number one is the problem must be identified by the person. Example, be recognized, named, and placed in the center of attention. So, in order to distinguish about that certain problem, you need also to develop about the problem solving model itself. So, in identifying about the problem. So, the problem, when I say problem, problema, solving problem and you need to investigate what is the problem, and after doing that certain problem investigation, what must be the what we call that the solving process that you give or yung pwede natin maibigay sa kanya in terms of that model. Another problem solving model also, the search for possible means and modes of solution must be initiated and considered, and alternatives must be weighed and tried out to exchange of ideas and reactions that proceed. So it's the reciprocity process that we had. So pakikinggan natin ang client of what is the problem itself, kung ano meron sa kanya, kung anong problema niya. So we don't need to judge that certain client. Some choice of decision must be made as a result of thinking and feeling through what means seems most likely to affect the problem of the person relation to it. Correct. Another problem solving model, we have two factors are important in the problem solving. First is the relationship involvement and effect of significant others. So when we say significant others, the family itself, the person and circumstances within the client's problematic network, the friends, the peers, ayan, the community itself can be significant others. These two determine the nature and outcome of the caseworker's problem solving efforts. Another problem solving model also have a relationship, means all relationship between caseworkers and the client. Perlman pointed out that whatever the problem, the helping relationship should combine caring, concern, acceptance, and expectation of the client with understanding. Know how to social sanction, about the different sanctions or different parusa na meron sa kanila, alam nila. So we as a social worker, we need also to inculcate the mind of the client that they really do about helping helping to us, not helping to us, but we client and worker relationship helping each other. Yun. So let's proceed with the client worker relationship. Relationship in casework. Relationship is the professional meeting of two persons for the purpose of assisting one of them, the client, to make a better or more acceptable adjustment to a personal problem. Relationship is the channel through which the mobilization of the capacity of the client is made possible. So it's very sabotable. So in our relationship, the meaning of relationship is towards with the different relationships like us, professional relationship to our client. Relationship is in casework also is the successful treatment depends heavily on the quality of relationship between client and worker. How do we promote positive relationship? Positive therapeutic relationship stems from the worker's demonstration of non-possessive warmth and concern, genuineness, accurate empathy, and non judgmental acceptance, along with his capacity to communicate optimism and professional competency. Competency. So, from the word genuine, empathy, so you need to support that certain client. Not only to support, but also to guide, to facilitate, or to help each other that they can that we or the client itself and the worker that they can solve the problem of the client. How do we promote also relationship? For client, he must mobilize some courage, hopes, and motivation to join the worker and to trust in his ability to help. So you as a social worker, you have also to have a sympathy, empathy. You go on with the shoe of your client. Ayan po. Another, recommending worker intervention to engage the client own problem solving capacity. Help client acknowledge difficulty. Assisting client in understanding the meaning of situation. You need to explain that this is a problem. This is the situation of your problem. Aid client in making decision to change. You lay down, you give options to your client. Show sympathetic approach with client. If in case umiiyak siya, you sympathize a certain client. Huwag naman yung sobra na umiiyak siya, umiiyak ka rin. So dapat you are the one who are strong because the client really ano tanya, really support. I know what we call support. Really sayo or sa imuha nagapangitag kusog or sayo humahanap ng lakas. Establishing rapport. This is the most important. yan mga problema ngayon ng mga social worker nowadays in actual that the certain client will not give the right information because of that certain establishing rapport. So as a matter of fact, you need also first to what we call to build a rapport. You need to sympathize or empathize that certain client na meron ka. You need also distinguish na paano siya kilitiin. Hindi yung kilitiin na normal kilitiin mo. Hanapan mo siya ng way paano siya magkaroon ng trust sa iyo. Present and discussion facts of the case, stimulate the client to action, so support mo rin siya. Demonstrate to the client your ability to observe and listen. So this is the most important. You need to observe and listen while he or she discussing about the problem. He or she is too much emotional. So just listen and observe and have empathy or sympathy about her problem. Begin where the client is. Correct. You ask permission, that you write an interview about the client, about the background, and you need to clarify also that ito ba yung sinabi mo, sir, ma'am? Ito ba? Ganun. Ask only necessary question. So, that connected in her problem. Huwag na tayong paligoy-ligoy pa ng mga different questions. You need to go on straight to the point, kumbaga. Take leadership only when needed. Otherwise, use client-owned resources. The skills, the techniques na meron sa client, dapat makuha mo yung skills, kung anong skills niya. It can be positive para kahit paano they will solve the problem. You will solve the problem of the client. So that is also known as the internal resources. Offer interpretation of client situation, as well as resources and direction only as needed. It also demonstrates acceptance of the client. Discuss also to the client request. Gather facts about the request. So if in case that client have a request in you, you need also to investigate and to clarify if it is correct or to other significant others of the client or even in the community. You need to justify it. So that's for today's discussion, and I hope you have learned a lot from my discussion. And sorry for all the different grammar, I think, but I hope that you learn a lot. Thank you very much, and have a blessed day to all.